Hey friends, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and kick off a little hangout and paint session. I got some Stormfiends pretty much ready to go. I did the basing and stuff like that, but we'll get to that here in a second. If you're able to join me, thank you so much. I'm going to point the downward cam here and get my light set up to better suit this angle here. Alright, so let's see. Sorry for time, but winter I was just moving a bunch of furniture for my wife, and beyond that, just settling in for a little bit of a hobby evening. So, as far as things to talk about, let me shake this up a little bit more. As far as things to talk about this evening, two things I really definitely want to cover. A local gentleman who I didn't ask for his permission for his name, so I won't give it out. He heard about the donation that I made to what is it, the Independent Characters Relief Fund for, like, not fund, but relief effort to give models to the guys who lost everything down in Cali. And he thought that was really cool and wanted to join in. Actually, I forgot to open up my chat window here. So sorry about that. Give me 1 second. Computer's just going to take a quick second to do that. Anyway, heard about the relief effort that I did. I sent in the huge army of orcs, and he just wanted to, I guess, pay it forward, and was just super kind enough to give me a bunch of flesh eater quartz. Who I'm not taking them to anything. I have no like definite plans. I was clear about that. I had no definite plans for the army right this second. But it is an army that I do want to do at some point. And so as I'm painting up a bunch of Skaven and expecting a whole bunch more in the mail, I'm also looking forward to someday getting into some flesh eater quartz, which is a super cool army. Let's see here. Oh, awesome. So the chat is working now. Thank you all so much. Sorry about that. I didn't hear it. Yeah. Tomb King Tristan. Oh, sweet. A 2 Plus stream. Yep. That's it. I'm just, normally on Sunday nights, I'm working on that week's videos, but I got done with them a little bit early. So they got done this afternoon. So I thought, you know what? Let's do a little bit of painting progress. So in the chat, I see, because it booted up a little bit late. If you said hi already, I'm sorry I missed it. Spezia Poet. If I might ask, how long are you thinking tonight? I've been trying to start painting my new shiny Mighty Lord of Khorne. Probably thinking about an hour and a half. So if that helps you, an hour and a half from now, I'll probably hop off. That's about when my wife comes home from hanging out with her friends. Let's see here. So I'm just starting to do some skin on a Stormfiend. And let's see. Kenzie says, finishing the old Skull Taker for Jack. Well, I know he'll appreciate it. We've been having a lot of discussions about Khorne. If you don't know, me and Rerolling Ones share a Discord channel. And you can go, I think there's a link down below you should be able to see and go check that out. But basically one of the people in there who I don't know, I assume he's a fan of both our channels, but I'm not sure which one he found us on, suggested when we go to Nova for the doubles event, which me and Jack are participating in, that he should go Khorne. And the type of, like, Khorne, I don't know, Stormhost equivalent that gives them, like, +2 to speed. And then I, as a Skaven player, can focus on shooting with Scryer and then bring the chronomatic cogs so that he can be incredibly aggressive up there in the face and making our opponents weep. And I thought that was a pretty neat idea. So I'm going to, there's nothing set in stone. Just going to float it past our group and see what we think about it. But yeah. Alright, I think these guys are going to turn out pretty darn well. Zaku, let's see here. Tomb King Tristan, where's the other chat reference? It's on my end. So on my end, I can see the chats from both Twitch and YouTube. It's live in both places right now. And that's all. So everything you say, folks on YouTube are seeing. So you're famous. You're on the show. Let's see here. Omniface should probably be asleep. I never sleep when I'm supposed to. Let's see here. George Shaw question. Doug, do you like or dislike the amount of faction terrain and how they seem to be must-takes? I was going to do a video about terrain, and I want to wait until I have my thoughts a little more solidified, but on the whole, The idea of faction terrain works for some, doesn't work for all. And the thing is, it's hard to say that I don't like it when it's the only way that we've consistently seen GW putting out good terrain. Because before this, like the Numinous Oculum and the Brass Tower, like those were not quality kits. They look cool if you build them correctly, but they're very hard to get built correctly. And they were not truly affordable for most people. Whereas most of the terrain we have now, you know, it is coming out for factions, but it is kind of affordable. Like it's doable. It's on tables. It looks great. Makes tables look better. I'm just not super sold on like every terrain piece on a battlefield is like incredibly important. I kind of like how 40K has a good mix of like, this is just a building. In AOS, all of our terrain stuff is like either faction specific and super important, or it's like supposed to be a super rare monument of an old world, and there shouldn't be that many of them. So I don't know. I'm a little bit torn. I'm torn because I want tables that are full of really cool looking terrain, and all the faction specific stuff has been really, really cool. You know, I mean, in terms of like just they're good models and that kind of stuff. But I want the same level of attention and effort put into more generic stuff, so we're not always reliant on faction terrain pieces to kind of fill it up. Sorry if I sound kind of like I'm wheezing. My allergies are kicking up pretty hardcore today. Give me just 1 second and finish this foot, and I'll get back to the chat. It's tough because it looks great on the table, like all the faction specific stuff. It's just you know, not every single battle would be at the foot of a herdstone. For the Beast of Chaos specifically. Let's see here. Omniphage, Doug, if you'd kept the Beast of Chaos, you could have run Khorne easily. That's true. Could have. But I don't second guess myself like that. It is what it is. And that's why you know, whenever you're gonna sell an army or trade one away or however you get rid of it, you just gotta be really confident. Like, I'm not gonna regret this, and I don't regret it. I don't regret it, honestly. But that's kind of the #1 thing I tell people, because they see me doing it a lot and they're like, oh, this must be very, very easy. I'm like, no, it's a very certain personality type that can spend that many hours on an army painting it up and then get rid of it. Not for everyone, for sure. Let's see. Phoenix Kelly, do you have any tips for making Warriors of Chaos of Slaanesh? Slaanesh is the hardest one because they're like a lot of like Tzeentch and Khorne kits all have really cool bits that you can like decorate their warriors with. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the Slaanesh kits super well to give you like the best answer. Aside from color choice, purples and whites are both really, really popular. Just because it's a color of royalty, or also like purity and affluence, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't have a lot for you. I'm super sorry. Normally, if you were to say like Tzeentch, I'd be like, oh, grab you know, a Karak Acolyte kit and just start kit bashing with that kind of stuff, and that would actually yield some pretty cool results. But unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot for Slaanesh. Jack knows those kits a lot better. He would know where to find bits. But he's actually at a tournament right now. Let's see here. Zaku, Free People and Sylvaneth has a fun combo. Steam tanks and guard to hold objectives while Dryads jump through the forest. I like it. Tomb King Tristan, question. You've been to a few big North American tournaments. What one would you recommend for someone who loves narrative? I have actually not. This year I'm going to my first one, actually. It is the Nova Open over in Virginia. But no, I don't actually travel to events very regularly. I know what I hear, as much as the internet is honest. From internet, YouTube personalities that I trust. Narrative stuff, Nova Open in Virginia is a big one, but their narrative thing is already sold out. If you're local, I'd say get on a waiting list. Beyond that, in North America, I think Adepticon has a big narrative. And I think they wanted to add one to the LVO, but I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that. I don't keep up with their news very much. Mainly because it's either controversy or the competitive end of things, which I don't follow very closely. Give me 1 second here. I'm just doing the little bumps on the tail. There we go. Let's see. Plastic Man War. I like it. Hey Doug, I re-binged your entire lore series when I was on an assembly marathon all weekend. Oh, that's funny. Hope you binge watched the Flesh Eater Courts one, because that's what we're tackling this week in the video series. Going over the updated lore for Flesh Eater Courts, but most of it's the same, so I just tell people, like, for this information, like, go visit the older videos. All in all, that was a super impressive book, I gotta say. The new Flesh Eater Courts one. I dig it. And I have the Flesh Eater Court side of Carrion Empire and a Start Collecting box just sitting on my shelf right now. I'll get to it one day. Let's see. Jaybird, I'm surprised how many terrain pieces are free. They seem super strong. Some are, some aren't. And some are somewhere in between, where it's very situational. Like, the Herdstone is cool, but it's balanced by the fact that it has a slow-growing aura effect, and you have a very mobile, aggressive army, so you're most of the time outside of its range for things. And that's from practical experience. Whereas other ones they're just good. Let's see. Being able to place 2 huge pieces of terrain like the boats or the Sylvaneth Wildwoods, like those things are just good. Alright. Ken says allergies kicking her too. Yeah, if you hear me like take a deep breath or whatever like that, and I'm not winded from extreme painting, it's just because I need to breathe. Let's see here. Vigorous application of many thin coats leads to some good calorie burns. You know how it goes. Okay. Spezia Poet. I have a question. Really loved your Start Collecting box playlist, so I got 2 of the Slaves to Darkness boxes recently. Got the corn half of the first starter box. Any tips on those chariots? I assume you mean which chariot to build, and honestly, I have no idea. Most of my Slaves to Darkness army, and I did keep it with the exception of the Marauders, because I think I just want to replace the Marauder element of my army with the new Dark Oath stuff, from what we're seeing. So anyway, my point in saying all that was, as far as I've never actually owned or played the chariots. I bought up a bunch of like used lots from people that were clearing them out, and no one ever had any of the chariots. So I never got a chance to really try it. I just kind of looked at their profile, and they kind of look like most other chariots, which is to say really good in groups because it's a lot of cheap wounds, and pretty sad by themselves. They fit in really well with cavalry and things that buff cavalry. If you go with, I think, I don't remember if there's one or if both of them buff you, like you get better attacks and stuff like that the turn they charge. Because so do the cavalry with their lances. So if that's the kind of list, a highly mobile list with that focuses on charges, that would be the better option, I think. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't. It's like the unit in there, I don't really know. And honestly, to be truthful to you, it doesn't matter a ton because when you start playing at higher point levels, the minor differences between those two types of units will matter less and less. And what will matter is you have a very, very mobile hunk of wounds for your opponent to chew through. That never changes. Here. Let me see. Get caught up here. Caleb, Stand Ridge. I don't play 40k because shooting seems overpowered, and whoever goes first wins the majority of the time. When troops are in cover. Any thoughts on 40k? Shooting is a dominant feature of that game, and that is largely, I think, why I like AOS more, just because I like the positioning and the aggression, and I feel like my troops move more. There's a lot more interaction on the tabletop with my Age of Sigmar armies. There's nothing like Beasts of Chaos in 40k, right? Turn one, bam, in your face from across the table, run and charge. I guess Demons of Slaanesh function largely the same, but in terms of multiple armies being able to do that, it's not quite there. It's it's just a different kind of game, and I won't. I've tried it multiple times in last edition and this edition, and I get into it for a little while because I like some of the people that I would play against, like at the gaming group in Monroe. But since I have started trying to build my own AOS group on the same night, because that's just the game night that works for me, unfortunately, I don't play it, and if I don't play it, I have no interest in it. It's one of those things, like it didn't excite me enough for me to like it, to fall in love with it on my own. Whereas AOS does. Like I'll go, I can have a few weeks without playing AOS and still like the game and still want to follow it. Whereas 40k, it's more largely tied to social stuff, being social, and so I don't know. I also don't like the focus on shooting, but the melee centric armies, you gotta know what you're doing. Like there's no just run up and charge people like in Beast of Chaos up there. Let's see. Fell behind here a little bit. Tim King Tristan, not really local, far up east quarter of Canada. Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't been to a lot of conventions. I hope to do some more in 2019 and more in 2020. But this is all I got for right now, because I'm going to Nova in August. Hey Doug, glad to catch the stream on time. Was reading Beastclaw lore, couldn't find anything related to ogre intelligence. Are they just as smart as, say, humans, just more blunt? Trying to think. So the Beastclaw Raider book is pretty vague in many huge ways. It's actually one of the battle tomes that I genuinely, I don't dislike it because I think the faction is not cool. It's a really cool faction. I dislike it because they were still in that phase of writing where everything was mysterious, so they just didn't bother to give you cool details to crunch on. Like they had to learn how to get better at sharing mystery. And so it's kind of this weird book where it's just like, there's so many things we don't know about them, but you want us to connect with them. So anyway, to all to say, there's not a lot of detail on their intelligence. We know they have cave drawings, a system of speech. They understand each other. They have a tribal-like culture where the hero who is best at providing food is named the leader of their tribe. Which is, it's more than caveman style, right? So, I don't know, they're intelligent might be a strong word, but they are, like, cohesive. Let's see. It's looking good. But yeah, not a lot of details about that. I mean, my assumption is they can at least speak. Just a minute. When do you think they will update Slaanesh as much as the other Chaos Gods? I am hoping for a summer thing. I have no reason to think that, but that's my hope. I also want Slaanesh's return to be a part of a huge campaign. Like I want Realm Gate War Part 2, because that was the best campaign that no one took part in because of the awkward way they released Age of Sigmar. But it was such cool story stuff. And all the books had ramifications and asked cool, new, interesting questions. I don't know. I dug it. I thought it was the best thing. They just did a really bad job of marketing the game when it first launched. I hope they weren't scared off from doing that. The Blighted Legionnaire says that the normal chariots can be pretty quick and hold up to shooting units at least. That's true. That's a really great thing. Democles says, yo, what up, my friend? And howdy to everyone else who's piling into chat. Am I going to see this Stormfiend in the Nova doubles? Probably. Well, maybe. It depends on what me and Jack are doing. So basically, at this point with the Nova doubles, we are waiting a little bit closer to know. I'm bringing Skaven. I'm committed to that. Mainly because I need to. I'm not saying stick to an army forever, because I made that mistake once with the Piece of Chaos in saying that. But I am going to stick to Skaven so I can learn it to be good at it. Right? Part of my goals is to be on Warhammer TV and not embarrass myself. So I'm going to stick with them to learn the rules intricately and be as an intelligent player. Even if I'm not a great one, be intelligent. So anyway, there's that. So at this point, to bring that to a more relevant point, is we're waiting to see what happens to Stormcast, specifically the shooting side of things. We need to see. I've never been to Nova before, so I don't know if there's like a rule where you have to be part of the same Grand Alliance, because that would matter. That would mean either I have to bring something else or Jack has to bring Stormcast. Or, I'm sorry, he can't bring Stormcast, I mean. Again, I'm not familiar with the rules. If somebody knows the Nova rules for the doubles, I'd be curious. But, yeah, so we're waiting on that to know what his side of the list will be like and how I can support that. Reason being is, like, Skaven are awesome because I can do a lot of things. I can be a horde army. If he's going to bring, for example, Khorne, which we don't know. He hasn't looked at the book. None of us have. But say hypothetically he were to bring a melee army like Khorne, okay, well, I would supplement it with scryer shooting and that kind of stuff. So, again, we're just kind of waiting to see. We are interested to take a look at the new Khorne book. So, to give you an idea, Jack has Stormcast, he has Khorne, he has Slaanesh, and those are kind of his three big ones that he really likes and or is good with. Like, I know he likes his Stormcast, but that's his tournament army. But I know he also likes Khorne. He did it for Path to Glory on their channel. And he's just been an avid Slaanesh fan for a long time. Just kind of put him on the shelf until they get a book. Yeah. Those are definitely our armies. He also has Flesh Eater Courts, but he doesn't seem too terribly tempted by taking those. He does, like, for local game nights. But, yeah, I don't know. But I think that's probably going to be my next project. I might do it on, like, painting breaks with Skaven on the side, but more than anything, I want to keep playing Skaven to get used to them. But yeah, I don't know if folks who are just now piling in heard when I first started, but a really awesome guy locally, who I didn't ask for his name, so I won't give it, heard about the army I donated to the Independent Characters Relief thing for folks down who lost their armies down in California. And he's like, oh, you can just have these. You can just pay it forward. If somebody else needs an army, it's whatever. And so hooked me up with the Carrion Empire set, and then I went ahead and bought the Start Collecting box, because there's a local store that does a huge discount, like I think 15 or 20% off GW products, and they didn't update their prices from when GW increased the price of the Start Collecting box. So that was a dirt cheap thing. But that's just going to sit in the closet for a while until I get enough painted with Skaven actual to play a fully painted list, that kind of stuff. Let's see. Give me 1 second, I'll hop back into the chat. So much better to be chatting when I'm painting instead of trying to build stuff, my goodness. Okay. Kinsey, question. We saw a new trailer for Forbidden Power at Gamma. Any ideas on what it could be? Well, I did kind of a few speculation thoughts. A lot of folks, because they saw the 2 cat statues on either side of the doorway. If you haven't seen the trailer, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But there's like a Forbidden Vault that Sigmar has. And like there's 2 cat statues outside of it. And so people are like, oh, it's Egyptian themed. Obviously, they mean Cetra's coming back in some way. And so I don't get the Cetra hype because I came into Fantasy Battles too late. Like, I was just learning about my High Elves when the game went away. Not to say he's not a cool character and deserves all that. I just don't know him. And so my thought was, because I know he's a Tomb King character, if they wanted to do that, a narrative way they could bring Cetra in is to say that even though Grugni helped Sigmar build the Anvil Apotheosis to make creation of bodies for souls possible, which is how they forged Stormcast and reforged them, maybe Cetra was taken to help Sigmar learn how to manipulate and wield souls, because fundamentally that would be kind of like a necromancy type thing. So an undead character coming to the side of order could fill that role. That's, again, I'm making that up as a way to explain people's excitement for Cetra. That is not necessarily what's happening. So, I don't know. It's, you know, it's as possible as anything else. I don't know anything. But that's probably the, I don't know, the only theory I can think of that involves him, which is what people seem to be really excited about. Beyond that, there's nothing really exciting about that trailer, just because it was like, I have regrets too, and then shows a door. I'm like, well, we all, me too, bro. You ain't special. We all have regrets. So I don't know. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Had something in my eye. Plastic Man War says, to the point, I infinitely prefer a fantasy setting over sci-fi. Yeah, I've been a Skaven fan for years. Yeah. I'm pretty much the same way. I do like the super dark Blanjitsu reimaginings of the future. Like, I like that stuff, but that's not really what's coming out anymore, if you think about it. I was just listening to the latest podcast by the Independent Characters, just a 40K podcast that I really, really enjoy. And they were just commenting on the fact that, like, you know, we're moving into, like, a time where now the good guys are coming out with, like, jet bikes and that kind of stuff, and moving away from the, what you might say is archaic type of machinery, like wheels, you know, like motorcycles with wheels and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but the whole regression backwards is kind of what I like. You know, or it's this dark reimagining of almost historical things for us, just with a horrific new context and morality involved. So I like those kinds of elements, but they seem to be moving away generally from the things that I like, which is totally fine. Because who am I? Kasei, I'm sorry, I don't have paronyms, but Jeep is the last name. Let's see. Since you're doing Filthy Rats, I'm super worried about getting just shot off the table. Will a heavy cavalry and fast unit build counter them strong enough not to just be tabled? That's a tough one, because it depends on how good your opponent is at screening his models. If you have something that can run, charge, and fly, you are in a really good place, because that just happened to me with Flesh Eater Courts and what are they called? Crypt Flares, ones that can fly, where my opponent made it to me very, very quickly, and then rolled like a 4 to charge, but if they had rolled average, they could have gone over my screens and then charged my squishy shooting units, which I didn't think about. So it is very possible on average dice rolls to do that kind of thing. If you don't have fly, it'll be difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Another thing to note here is that, like, to make the best shooting list, if your opponent has really emphasized the shooting of Skaven, a lot of times they're giving up, because those units are so expensive, they're giving up the bodies to claim objectives. So, like, the other night when I was at my hot local game night and playing Flesh Eater Courts, I almost tabled her. Like, no joke. She had whatever the small hero version of a Crypt Ghoul is, like the courtier dude, sitting in the open just doing nothing. And I think there was like a 3 or 4 other models on the table, but like I lost on objectives because all the shooting stuff, the Stormfiends are slow. What else? I mean, the warp lightning cannon moves 3 inches. I don't know. I think scenario play is going to be the focus if you're doing that. And I think fundamentally, I think that's why we need good missions, because yes, I could have just sat back and shot the whole game, but I lost because I did just that. Let's see. Stephen Chan, hi Doug, just got the stream. A whole spring break was used to finish a Trog herd army. Nice. I dig it. That was a pretty good contender for my more elite army to take across the country, was Trog herd stuff. But at the same time, I thought maybe Shu from Ruling Ones was going to get into him. And I'm already stepping on his toes enough by doing Skaven, so I was like, no, I'll let you just do your thing. Not that he would never make me feel bad for choosing that army. He's a good guy. Let's see. Tomb King Tristan, I feel like the next big campaign will be Slanesh 2. Probably have some more tie-in to Shadespire. Yeah. What do you think will be the Order army that will get paired with them? Oh, like if they're going to do a box set? Honestly, probably Stormcast. Which would be cool. You know, like they came out with the Vanguard Chamber, and then right around the corner was, well, I guess, yeah, right around the corner was the Blight War box. I'd be fine with that. You know, just repackage them, make something more accessible. That's cool. Doesn't have to be new stuff every time, but it will probably be them. In my wildest dreams, it would be like Devoted of Sigmar. People who are just utterly repulsed by the decadence of Slanesh followers and are basically like, I don't know, militant Puritans kind of thing. That would be like, if I could have anything, it would be that box, because it gives all my wants and desires as far as, you know, I want to see Slanesh come back for people who like that army. I'm not super into Slanesh, but I know there are many folks that are. And then also humans, which I think I've said multiple times. I've talked about humans enough. But that would be my dream, would be that box. Let's see. Anonymous plays live. Looking forward to seeing you there. I'll be playing all Trogs. Nice. Let's do it. Yeah, when I go to Nova, for anyone who is watching and able to attend, I have all day, or all afternoon and evening Saturday kind of blocked off just to meet people, walk around, say hi, and play games, open, like, pickup games, is what I meant to say, not open play. with folks. So I've definitely scheduled the time to just kind of be social, be there, and meet everyone that I can. So if I don't play in the doubles event, I'll be playing outside of it. Let's see. Would you consider mostly all Stormfiend army? So going with a almost fully Stormfiend army? Not really. I mean, would I go with a mostly Stormfiend army? Yes, that'd be fine. Because the weapon options are interesting enough, and it'd be less unit profiles to remember and that kind of stuff. The reason I say no is because I really, really like Acolytes. They're brutal, and they kind of fill the aesthetic niche of Skaven as far as a bunch of little dudes who run away at the drop of a hat. And I just like them. I like the ones that I get bashed up. Yeah, I like the original models. Like I actually ordered, I think 9 of them from GW, 6 or 9, I can't remember. They should be in this weekend, but or this week. But yeah, I think they're just cool. The problem with Stormfiends is they're kind of good at shooting and they're kind of good at melee, but they're not great at either or any. And I say that like having really, really dominated the table with them. So I don't think they're bad. And that's saying that they don't have a strength is not a bad thing. But I just find that I would rather like take those points and take a Warp Lightning Cannon that's really good at shooting, or Storm Vermin who are pretty good at melee, than something that kind of sits in between. I think the real value of Stormfiends is, one, psychological. They just look like a bigger threat than maybe they actually are to your opponent. And two, they are annoying to dislodge once they get somewhere. We did the local slow grow, and you listen to these YouTubers, these guys, these schmucks who have YouTube channels. No, I was listening to a bunch of book reviews about the Skaven, and people were just very lukewarm on them, with the exception of Tom Lyons, who was just like, yeah, they're still good, they're just not what I would take anymore, like as a first choice. And I just, in my experience, I think on the national or international meta level, I think those guys are right that there's better choices. But just for local pickup games, I mean, they're hard to deal with. Like, I played against Seraphon with them and could not dislodge them. Like, there's not an abundance of high rend or multi-damage attacks in that army. And the same went for when I played against Flesh Eater Courts. Like, all 3 of my Stormfiends made it to the end of the game. No problem. I think one of them had 4 wounds on him by the end, something like that. So, I don't know. I think they're good. I think what it is when you're talking about like scenario play and that kind of stuff, it's better to have more bodies because number of models are what counts. So why would it is better for scenario play to take a unit of 20 clan rats for like a half or a third of the price and have 20 models counting towards an objective than 260 points for Stormfiends and count 3 models towards an objective. But yeah, let's see. The Blighted Legionnaire, seeing the updates on the app, the Khorne Mortal Forces seem to be their main focus. Do you think that is because they want people to summon more? Maybe demons are lesser to make up for it. That would not surprise me. Also because a lot of their Black Library support, their dramas and that kind of stuff is centered around the more human struggle that we can understand. There's very few times where we meet demon characters. I mean, there's Nagash Undying King where we meet a Nurgle demon, or Nurgle Herald of Demon, whatever he is. A demon Herald of Nurgle. There we go. Brain's working again. And but he's one of the few. So I'm actually cool with it. I like the focus on the more mortal stuff because I think that's the drama that fits nicely into stories, and yeah. Plus, I know I personally thematically like it when demons are summoned rather than just kind of there. But that, I mean, that's the personal taste. There's no right or wrong in that one. Let's see. SC checking in. Building a Terrorgeist. Nice! That's awesome. I have a kit for that. I'm thinking about building it at some point. I kind of got my painting mojo back, so I gotta just ride that train as long as it goes, and then I'll get back into building. Gotta get the little rat and the baby Bjorn back here done. I'm basically gonna make him like, I think purplish, like with washes, to make him look like very feeble and I don't know, messed up. All right. Gamer Joe. Shoecast with rats sounds scary. Oh yeah, it is, but yeah. Gamer Joe, question. Someone wanting to jump into AOS and loving the Khorne demon models, is an army of just demons viable? Not looking to win any tournaments, just would like to win from time to time. That is completely doable. First of all, the new book's coming out. You pre-order it now. The new book will be out next weekend. So like, I don't know what's in there. I don't have a copy. But they did make sure in a designer's commentary on their community site to go out of their way to say, like, it is a focus that you can play all the different ways that you want. Of note, you're getting a new Herald model. You're getting, I don't know, new stuff. So I'm excited. I would say there's more reason to be optimistic about it than not. But that's, yeah, it's about all I can offer you here. I mean, honestly, above anything else, I would just say, play whatever you like. You know what I mean? If it's Khorne Demons, you will find yourself winning because mass bloodletters are a terrifying thing to behold. And I don't see any reason why their rules would change super dramatically. All right. But also welcome. Andrew Hodgson. Hey Doug, after some advice, I'm scheming my Slanesh army, similar to Vince's, magenta, teal, and blue. Cool. Not sure what color scheme for basing, though. I want to set them up in Ulgu, ideally. You know, honestly, I get asked about Ulgu quite a bit, and I don't have a whole lot of help for you, to be honest with you, just to be super blunt, just because they haven't shown us a whole lot. As far as, like, I think it's a cool idea. Like, if you're asking, like, do you think it's a cool idea? Absolutely, and you should do it. As far as how to achieve a base from Ulgu, other than, like, dry brushes with cooler colors, grays and things like that, I'm not entirely sure, like, what their vision is for it, if that makes sense. One second here. Are Chaos Dragons a thing for AOS? Yes, if you go to the Forge World page, you are always happy, welcome, and not by this channel, but always encouraged to spend $500 on a Khorne Dragon from Forge World. It's probably more than that. I just made that number up. Probably closer to 600. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. They are technically a thing. They are not realistically a thing, because who has that kind of money? Let's see. Who the heck is Cetra? Cetra is the former leader of the Tomb Kings from the old world that was, before the Tomb Kings were a squatted army. He was the king of kings, the best of the leaders, and stood defiant when Nagash came to take ultimate control over all the undead. And it's just a fan favorite for being BA at the last battle. There was a battle that came out to be, so in reading it, it was kind of long and drawn out, but it was really cool, where Cetra and Nagash's forces were fighting in the old world, and they both just kind of kept bringing their dead back to life, like over and over and over again, which was kind of boring to read. And then you think about it, it's more just a battle of like willpower between the two necromancers of like who can bring back more dead, and I don't know. He was cool. He was a cool dude. Let's see. I'm going to skip through because I didn't see people had already answered your questions. Brad Summer Hayes, hey, thinking of jumping into AOS after around 13 years away. Oh, that's cool, man. Thanks for coming back. I used to collect High Elves, so I'm thinking of going Order, Draconis with Lion Rangers allies, or start fresh with Flesh Eater Courts. Well, you seem to have a good grasp of like how the Order things work. That's awesome. That's always the hardest part with new folks coming back, so good on you. Honestly, just whatever catches your fancy more, that is what I suggest you do. I think if you're looking to do any kind of competitive gaming, I think you're going to find that Flesh Eater Courts are really good. They're really good right now. Yeah, so that's something to consider because I don't know what kind of gaming you do. But I think between the two of them, you can't make a solid... you can't make a real error. Let's see. It kind of depends on the model. So, like, we don't know what's going to happen to some of the Heil stuff. It might get expanded. Some of it might... rarely, but occasionally here and there, they've been, like, discontinuing certain model kits from old stuff. But that's mostly been for, like, really ancient sculpts for grots and stuff like that. That's going to put that on your radar. So I guess my real suggestion is, if you like the Flesh Eater Court models, they are without a doubt a safe bet because they just got a book and everything in there is fully supported. And at some point they'll get their Archregent sold separately so you can buy him without having to buy Carrion Empires. Not that you could right now because they are sold out universally. But yeah. Sweet. Pretty much got the skin down on the rat ogres. Looking fly. Let's see. Kenzie says, what would you think of such a character becoming a Stormcast? I think there's actually a character that someone referred to in one of the newer books called Cetrus, and people were like, oh my god, he's back. So that's already a thing on people's radar, Kenzie. I'm not quite sure. I haven't read the book they're referring to, so don't hold to that, but there is rumors that that is exactly what's happening. The thing is that he was an empire builder, much like Sigmar was when he was human. So it wouldn't be like super out of character for him. Like, he's not a death guy in the same way that Nagash is a death guy. It's just kind of the culture he was raised in. So it would make sense. He could be a good guy. I don't think there's anything about Cetra that's inherently like evil. You know what I mean? That would pit him against anything necessarily. Let's see. Okay, I might skip ahead here a little bit because y'all are catching up on the conversation without me. Father Knows Best. Hi, Doug. I'm painting up my Hearthstone, waiting on my pre-order for my new Corn book, Judgments and Altar, to arrive. Oh, that's awesome. Please film your meet and greets at Nova. Oh, yeah. Yeah, basically when I go to Nova, I plan on bringing like a second external battery for my phone, and I just want to record everything, want to meet everybody, shake hands, play games. I'll make big reminders during that time to be like, follow me on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, so you can see the pictures. So, absolutely. Get some, let's get some fur painted on these dudes. Omniphage, one guy's Easter egg is another guy's offense. That is absolutely true. Yeah, I know people who were really into Balthazar Gelt from the old world were like, clear this guy from Soul Wars is that dude. So they were just like all up in arms, super neckbeardy old world Empire players like, you can't do that. I'm like, yeah, That's whatever. That's why I brought him forward. But I see your point. See lots of Slanesh rising up. I'm trying to do mine from the realm of fire, but I don't know how to do the skin for it. Well, the skin can be pretty much whatever you want. Because, it doesn't have to be like, super harsh red tones. You could even do black that goes into purple, like highlights with purple rather than and I mean like a deeper purple, not a lilac kind of thing. That could be cool. Give me 1 second. So this little. Try not to ruin all of the work I just did on his skin. Let's see. Technically, Setcher is not a necromancer. He's more like a mummy lord. That is true. Yes, because they have the mortuary cult rather than true necromancy in the old world. That's true. Again, I mean, and that's it helps my point, but it's more to the idea of just like it's not unthinkable that he would, if nothing else, be on order for the sake of I hate Nagash this much that I would love to screw up his plans. Let's see. Well, finished Skull Taker. Time to continue building the Shadow Spear box. Sweet. Yeah, I took me a while to actually get a picture of it, but I just did take a gander at the Shadow Spear box. It's cool stuff. Doesn't tempt me, but they're really like. I always like to check in and see like if the 40K models are becoming a little more dynamic and that kind of stuff. That's what I like about AOS stuff. They're looking great. See here. I love that the fur is basically just like stitched onto these guys in random places, so they're kind of a weird hodgepodge. Let's see, here we go. Someone I know kind of assumed that because this unit, the Stormfiends in lore-wise, are just like, they're based on rat ogres, they just thought all rat ogres were this size, and also because this is the size, rat ogres and Stormfiends are the same size in Vermintide. And when I explained to him, like, no, rat ogres are actually significantly smaller as models. Like, oh, thank God, I don't know how you could fit so many of them in a list. Like, yeah, no, there'd be no way. That would be huge. Okay, I think I got all the fur on him. Let's see. Last question. You can ask as many questions as you want, man. Thank you as always, Doug. As a dwarf player main at heart, I have 3,700 points of Fire Slayers. Oh, wow. And Old World with some KO. Do you think Fire Slayers or KO will get an update before Dispossessed release? Ooh, that's a hard question. Honestly, if I could have anything, they would just be one book. They would just be like, I don't know, the Sons of Duarden book or something like that, and just bring them back together and get rid of transport rules on KO ships. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Honestly, the way that they tied Pestilence back in with Skaven, it just gives me hope for a lot of other things being tied back in. I don't know. As far as like what I think, assuming they stayed separate, what would come first? That's a real tough one, to be honest with you. I can't say I have a really solid answer. Probably Probably Fire Slayers, I think, would come first, because that was one of their first model lines, and honestly, one they put a lot of work into the release of that range, and I don't know if it's because the army is so expensive to get into, and the rules make them pretty one-sided to play. That's an opinion. I did play them. Like, they're really good at one thing, and that's just tons of Volkites. They're really good at it, though. I think maybe they would probably need the most love first. And then I think KO are a good follow-up, because I know that model range, it didn't live up to I just don't think it has the same... I don't think it's doing what they envisioned it doing. Maybe it is. I don't know. That's from a game design perspective. From a sales perspective, I'm almost positive it's not performing as well as they want it to. Anytime you have an army that people actively discourage you from joining into is it's not great. Meaning, like, if people are at the store and they're like, "Oh, this army looks cool," like I've seen other players be like, "No, you don't want to play them." That's a rough army. Let's see. Learn, train, play. Hello to you as well. We're just painting along, cranking out some Stormfiends. And I think that's almost it for this guy, except for his little whiskers. Yeah, Jack went to a 5-round event this weekend, which is super exciting and really, really cool. I do not have the stamina or patience to see the same people for 2 days in a row, but he did it, and I'm pumped to talk to him about it. I think he's going to do like a stream about it or something like that on his channel, Rerolling Ones. But that'd be kind of exciting. Let's see. Omniphage. I'm kind of leery about starting an army with Generation 1 Battle Tome. The Skaven Flesh Eater Court thing was so sudden. Don't get me wrong, please see it, but who knows. I get it. I mean, I won't discourage you from feeling that way. It's a real feeling. What I can tell you is that they went with the Flesh Eater Court one, all they did was just add more of what makes Flesh Eater Courts awesome. I read it up this week and did 2 videos about it, which are going up tomorrow and Wednesday. And it is fundamentally the same. So if you read I don't know, we'll call it first generation Battle Tome, and you fall in love with it, like, I have zero fear that they're going to fundamentally change what you fell in love with it for. But if you're talking for rules and stuff like that, yeah, I don't know. Their new design process is a little bit more interesting. I mean, the Flesh Eater Courts do the same things they did before. They're just better at it, to be honest with you. A ton of unrend, or attacks with no rend, and regenerating models to units. That's what they did before. They're just better at it now. And for all the people who didn't own 6 Terrorgeists, now you have a reason to buy more Terrorgeists. Let's see. Ben Connor, hoping they combine the dwarves. Yeah, both new dwarf factions are lacking in unit count, where dispossessed have a ton of units and 2 heroes. I agree, and that's why, you know, I think that'd be great. Even if they kind of pitched dispossessed as I don't want to say mercenaries, but I more mean like available units that both the Fire Slayers and KO would use together. I think that'd be cool. Certainly would give them a cool place in the army if they were like, we don't have a home. Well, work for our brethren who are a little bit more established and that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Okay, I think that is it for the fur parts. These guys are coming right along. KO needs both the least and the most work. Yeah, they have a reasonable number of models but need rework. I agree. Kane says, insider info, Jack went 3 and 2. Oh, I knew that. Yeah, he's been texting us. But, let's see. He definitely did good. Let's see. Style. This playstyle is problematic. It's good. If it's good, it risks being oppressive. Yeah, it's hard. So with KO, they're a shooting-based faction. The problem is other factions are better at shooting. Stormcast is far better at shooting. 90 Ungor is better at shooting. So they kind of have a weird identity issue. In addition to that, if they were the best shooting army, then the trade-off would be you're good at shooting, but to win games you have to be really aggressive on objective play, which they would falter at. And I understand that as a balancing thing, and that's really, really good. The issue is they're just bad at shooting. They're not bad at it. They have a lot of guns. They're just not quality shots. And so it just gets kind of messy. Let's see. Maybe the reason it's taking a bit is because they want to create a brand new range for Dispossessed. Well, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I still have my KO up on the wall. I actually cleared out some of it just because I had like 3 frigates, and I was like, I'm not going to do 3 frigates. But, you know, I'm keeping the 1,000 points that I have painted, and I'm optimistic. I'm excited to see what comes. Plus, they're really good for demos. I can teach people, you know, how to play armies, and it's one that I can bring, and I can play my hardest, and it'll still be a fair, fun game against anyone who's practicing anything else. Let's see. Doing all the red little tabards and that kind of stuff. The shreds of cloth are all going to be red. The Mephiston red and Russ gray are kind of the 2 theme colors for my Skaven army. Alright. Let's see, got a question? Besides, say, a cannon, what ranged troops do Dispossess and Fireslayers have? And if none, is there any other dwarf range faction I could use? You can go to the Ironwall Arsenal and get some cannons from them as allies, I believe. I don't know why you couldn't. Yeah, and you do have Dispossessed, and their cannons, they can be good. They're just not a lot of shots. That's the biggest thing with them. You don't have a whole lot of, you have a lot of points of failure and not a whole lot of ways of buffing it and making it better. Manny says, I'm waiting for the Haish and Ulgu elves. Hope they do a campaign for them together. Maybe a oh, chat just moved here. Reignition of the old Malarian versus Teclis Tyrian Civil War or something. That'd be kind of cool. I'd be down for that. They were just really good protagonists and antagonists for each other. think that's the fun thing about creating armies in AOS. There's a lot of flexibility within the armies, but whereas 40k, each army is built for one thing. What do you think about that? They are, but the flexibility comes from being able to combine detachments and stuff like that to get the best of the best, which I appreciate as a game design perspective. I just don't care for it. That's one thing I said as I was trying to get back and do 40k at one point. I was like, the army design thing is just the biggest hiccup for me. But yeah. Let's see. Nope. All right, almost done with the red of this guy. There are really good options for KO. 40 Arcanauts with a Chemist boosting Skyhooks will kill Nagash. Yeah, like KO can do some work. What I more mean that KO has a problem, I don't mean that like they cannot win games, and I don't make declarative statements like that. I more mean that like, is the army performing the way that the people who designed it intended? And I don't think it does, because everything you just described doesn't involve boats, which is the defining model and feature that makes them absolutely unique and stunning to other stuff. Because you're right, a bunch of Skyhooks and Chemists, like, they'll get work done, but they don't need the iconic units of the army to achieve it. I think that's a miss. Because GW marketing team wants everyone on a boat. I know Tom and Vince had some cool suggestions for ways to get KO to be better, and some of it is just like the little gun hauler, like letting don't give them transport capacity, but let what are they called? The balloon boys. I can't think of their names right now. Engine riggers and something else. Like, let them hook onto that ship even though it doesn't have a transport capacity. I like that kind of idea. It gives them a purpose. They're a gunboat that delivers specific units. Okay, sweet. Do his shoulder panels. I'm trying to have like the red garment, piece down below be red, and also like one part of the armor to kind of make it pop. All right. Let's see. Arc, Hearthguard, Grudge Throwers, Quarrelers. Yeah. Yep, there's a few options for shooting with Dwarden. Let's see. John Galvin. Hey, Doug. Love your channel. Thanks so much. What's been bugging me lately? Do Seraphon have a place in the lore? Everything I read, they seem shoehorned in when interacting with other factions. So Seraphon suffer from being one of the first battle tomes released. They're actually the first battle tome of an old army from the old world being reimagined in AOS. And I think it was a huge stumble for the writing team, to be perfectly honest with you, because the world, or the realms, right, the setting, wasn't super fleshed out. And so, much like with how I think they missed the mark on Beastclaw Raiders, they didn't understand how to write mystery, right? They didn't give us the problem with writing mystery is, if you tell all the secrets, then everyone knows anything. It's not mysterious. But if you don't tell us enough information, they don't fit in because you don't know anything about them. Why would they? And so I think fundamentally that's what happened to Seraphon. We just didn't get enough information for them to seem interesting or have a reason to interact with other races. What I can say is I do think that Seraphon are getting a new battle tome at some point this year. And if they did anything like they did with Flesh Eater Courts, because I think Flesh Eater Courts also had that problem where, I talked about this in my video, so I'm sorry you'll hear me repeat myself this week, but they were so small and isolated that they didn't matter to the grand story. You never saw Black Library books about them. They didn't really matter as a faction. And then in the Battle Tome, they're like, no. Here are these grander next tier levels of Flesh Eater Courts that are booming across the realms, and now they can become big players in the realms and like matter to stuff. And so they're going to start driving events and narratives. And so like that's really important. Point is, do they fit in anywhere right now? They pop up occasionally. But I think if/when they get a new book, they will be written in such a way that they are far more important to what's going on. Like they did with the Flesh Eater Courts. Where is my... Let's see. Oh, for some reason my chat thing stopped showing me chats from Twitch for no reason. That's cool. I'm so sorry. I haven't been answering those. Let's see. Give me 1 second. All right. I was thinking about the boats. It'd be kind of interesting if they didn't boost the damage or reduce the cost, just made them super durable. You know, my thing is I want them to get rid of the transport rules because they're clunky and don't have a place, and it makes the war scroll too long. What I would just say is if you had a keyword Skyfarer instead of being deployed on the board, once per game you can deploy that unit within 12 inches of a ship. You know what I mean? Or, you know, whatever, like the deployment thing is. Don't make them... How many times do you pick a unit back up and move it across the board? It takes too long to get anywhere. So just have the ships with all kinds of firing capacity, being big, monstrous creatures or war machines, come down and then alternate deploy units around them. That's what I want. Let's see. I just saw a comment over on Twitch because I pulled up the chat separately. I'm sorry I missed it earlier. Jaybird. So for rerolling ones, do y'all just have a ton of models? Well, I switch armies like I breathe. And what? So Jack owns several armies. He has his shooting Stormcast. He has Slanesh, Khorne, now Flesh Eater Courts. I have whatever I have that week. And Mark has several things as well. I can't remember all the armies he has. Sylvaneth Nurgle. He also has his version of Stormcast. What else? Warherd. He has beautifully painted Warherd that he doesn't like using anymore. Yeah, I'm sure he has more. I just can't think about that in my head. But yeah, they are more collectors than I am, whereas I rotate what I have. For me, this is more about painting projects than it is around like collecting armies. But I mean, that's partially like their thing, right? They wanted to do battle reports, so having a diverse array of armies to keep games interesting is important. Let's see, there's the belt. All right. Getting to the awkward point where you have to like really study the model to make sure you didn't miss anything. There's some blur on straps. But yeah, I mean, I think collectively, like, there's one of the intros, Jack showed off all the unpainted or unbuilt models he had just like on a table. Like a ghost was harassing him to build them. And, yeah, that's real. But it's part of having a battle report channel that we don't invite a ton of people into, right? You have to have a lot of things, so, yeah. Let's see. Just imagine a full unit of iron breakers dropping from an ironclad. Just imagine that from a moment. Betsy says you can solve KO with a parachute function. You pick areas of the board. Oh, thank you so much for subscribing with me. Thank you so much, Mighty Tin Robot. Sorry, back to the comment. You can solve it with pick areas of the board, maybe like the Bad Moon. Get to deploy them in the zone when you choose. Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of ways to solve it. It just matters how they want to approach it. My main thing is that I think the boats just aren't doing what they envisioned them when they designed them. And so, while I don't think KO are a bad army right now, I just don't think they live up to the design of or the vision of what they were supposed to be. I know some gentleman took them to, I think, CanCon. He rocked it with. He also had 2 units of evocators, but that does not make him any less of a KO player. Let's see, get some. Ships buffing units would be cool. Oh, yeah. Yeah, here's a whole bunch of ideas. I'd more like it if the units buffed the ships and that the cannons were the centerpiece. But regardless, I mean, the idea is the same, right? The 2 different kinds of units interacting in meaningful ways rather than like, I'm on a boat. I'm not on a boat anymore. Spezia Poet, but it needs a movement and overall function for the ships. They possibly need a retreat to ship function. I don't know. Let's see. I'm sure when the new book comes out and we're all wowed by what they came up with, we'll be like, oh, they knew the whole time. I have a lot of blind optimism when it comes to their new protocol and team they have for writing rules, man. It's only gotten better. Power creep is still a real thing because they've been exploring new design opportunities, but I think it just makes armies more interesting. Let's see. Sorry, I was up in your chat. No, you're fine, man. You are fine. That is what the chat is there for, to be up in. There are a lot of folks who are deeply passionate about any form of dwarf army kind of thing. I mean, it's just one of those factions that, like, they garnered so much of a fan base in the old world that when they changed them, like, it's just different. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. Kind of like, I mean, Shu from Rerolling Ones has several armies, and you know, he's kind of lukewarm on many of them at some point. And I asked him at one point, like, you know, what army are you actually passionate about? Like, I thought Warherd was like your jam, you know, and he's like, no, he wants elves. He wants like more traditional elves. He doesn't want fish elves. He liked the Daughters of Cain book. That's cool, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't the elves that he really wanted. So he's really digging Wanderers and that kind of stuff. It doesn't have an army of them, but he likes them. Which I get, you know, that's a super valid opinion. Just be like, this is the kind of elves I want. Much in the same way, like, to be on point, elves, dwarves are the same thing. Let's see. Okay, it's coming along. Still got a few straps to do. I could have had my 500 points done already for our local slow grow, but I decided to do 40 clan rats during the super stream rather than actually work on Stormfiend, which were part of my slow grow list. But it panned out okay. Got knocked out 40 of those little suckers. And this week, man, a whole lot of reinforcements are coming in. I made one of my patrons was awesome enough to be like, hey, you know, I'm getting out of Skaven. And we made a bargain. And so I got a whole bunch more rats coming. It's going to be like a Vermin Lord, which it's unbuilt, so it can be any of the Vermin Lords that I want. And a whole bunch of Plague Monks. And I'm sure, like, maybe a box I'll convert to being Acolytes, but I do eventually want to have a Pestilence army. Like, the more I play the Scryer stuff, the more convinced I am that I don't get it. Like, I struggle to wrap my head around the Warp Spark token thing as a mechanic. Just because it adds one more layer. You get command points, you have allegiance abilities, you have the gnaw holes, you have all, and it's one more thing for my brain to wrap its mind around. So I'm not getting rid of the Scryer stuff by any stretch. It's just like I think that I think the priests and the prayers, and the Plague Monks are far more straightforward with the playstyle that I know. I'm more familiar with. So I think that'll be a little bit easier for me, be able to kind of engage more in the game as I'm playing those. And of course, after that, I have a whole bunch of Flesh Eater Gourds. Yeah! Which I am legit excited for. His belt looks like metal. Okay, LX Tab says hi. Hello. Hello, chat and Doug. Welcome, welcome, friends. Sorry I put you to sleep there. Had to tune out for just a second to get some detail parts in there. Let me grab the teeth on this guy. I forgot about them. All right. So, yeah, I think, I don't know. I still maintain that Pestilence is the secret low-key winner of the Battle Tome, to be honest with you. Like, by a pretty significant margin. Let's see. Let me grab my next color here. Step away. We'll go. Need a brown to highlight. Here we go. I don't know if there's a lot more to it. I don't view them as mindless anyways. Some seems like there is good and reason behind their methods. Oh, sorry, I missed something here. Question. Do you think any other factions will see anything like Judgments of Khorne, Endless Prayers and such? Yeah, probably. I wouldn't mind if, I mean, because here's the thing, like, is it really about Endless Prayers, or is it about an external mechanic that takes form on the battlefield? Because at that point, when you broaden the definition of what these things are, at that point you can have like Endrin works and that kind of stuff from KO and that deal. So JST, I believe it's Savior83. Somehow Doug always misses my questions. I did miss it. Oh, I did. Okay, I'm sorry. I scrolled up here. I have a large Khorne collection, and they have been coming up a lot in conversation lately. How do I explain to people that the faction is not a two-dimensional, mindless murder maniacs? Is that your question? Okay, sorry about that. Somehow I just sped past it. How do you explain that Khorne is not just a bunch of mindless murder maniacs? Well, for starters, Khorne is about more than just murder. It's also about martial prowess, which is different, akin to, but is fundamentally different. You know, he respects the warrior. I think that's a really important one. You can look at units like Skull Reapers and stuff like that to see really good examples of how, like, no, they need to keep killing worthy skulls to be able to retain their power and that kind of stuff. The Call of Archaon series has some great Khorne heroes. I don't know. I mean, part of it is, honestly, people like, as a joke, dumbing down factions, right? Like I joked about fish elves earlier. Like, they're not fish elves. They're Idoneth Deepkin, and they are cursed and warped and mutated, but they're not fish people necessarily. So like you're never going to like stop people from making the easy jokes, especially if they know now that it gets to you, because that's what friends do. But yeah, focusing on the martial prowess side of things as far as their abilities, trophy hunting. You know, there was a story, or I think it was a short story. It might have been the Call of Archaon series, I'm thinking about it, where a Khorne hero knew that his city was going to fall, and so he basically, like, joined the Khorne army who was invading him solely for the purpose of, like, I'm going to rise to the ranks, and one day I'm going to kill the guy who led the army this way. Like, he was a revenge thing. And he became a full Khorne army leader and killed people and sacrificed to Khorne and all that stuff. But his inner motive, because Khorne doesn't really care what your motive is, his inner motive was to rise to the top and kill the leader of the warband. So, like, there's cool personal dramas like that. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that earlier. It does help me see your question if you type the word question in all caps beforehand. It really does help. Let's see. If there's more to it, at least I don't view them as mindless anyways. No, they're not mindless. I think there's a, you know, when people throw the term mindless around, if you want something mindless, that's the skeleton warriors of Legions of Nagash. You know what I mean? And even then, there are some skeletons that retain their personality if the necromancer who made them lets them, but Nagash probably wouldn't care enough to do so. But they have a variety of goals and reasons, and that's what they do. Killing achieves them. Let's see. Its might makes right, so it always needs to be built on the goal to be the strongest. You can have Honorable Warrior just seeing Khorne as a path. Yeah, totally. Chaotic Goku, if you will. Yes. I know my gaming area make fun of Space Wolves as loyal Chaos Marines. Exactly, yeah. I mean, you can explain the depth. You know, I have a whole lore channel and people still poke fun at me because I play Age of Sigmar. Like, or because I dare to say that this game has lore. Like, you're just always going to have people who are just, nah, take cheap shot jokes. In jest. I should say add that. My friends do that in jest. Let's see. That's what I chose to do with my Khorne faction. They have a huge tie to a warped sense of chivalry. Yeah, totally. Let's see. Do you think Nurgle will get some endless spells this year? I hope so. And I hope they're really gross. Alex Tab, I'm sorry I missed your thing earlier. You said the Monk's Scroll alone is more to wrap your head around than most Scryer. It's true, but they did condense quite a bit of it. It is better. If you don't know, you should go take a look at the War Scroll for Plague Monks. It's just like, it's a thesis paper on how to ruin your opponent's day. That's all it is. But it's huge. Yeah, I know. But it's one of those things that, because if you're playing a pure Pestilence army and you're running just a ton of Plague Monks, it's like one of 3 War Scrolls that you really have to know. You know what I mean? And so that's what makes it bearable. But yeah, it is. Well, it used to be more wordy, but it still is wordy in the extreme. Let's see. Because they do everything. Well, it really comes down to the fact that the kit, when they built it, was mainly for fantasy battles, and it had a whole bunch of different options for, like, here's this kind of gong, right, instrument, and here's this kind of banner. And what they did in AOS is gave each one of those things, yeah, you can take all of these things, and also they all have different effects. So when you compile them, if you remember them, which is really the hurdle to get across, you got guys who are like, every time they die or run away, then 6s they do a mortal wound, and they can save them on 6s. I don't know, just a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, you're totally right. Let's see. It's kind of a fair criticism of Blood Reavers since they are sort of meant to be conscripted through cannibalism. Yes, it is. So I think the idea is Blood Reavers are that way, but as that rage tempers and you get better at fighting, you become more and more, I guess, reasonable, I guess is probably a good word for it, as you escalate through the Khorne faction. And so, yeah, I think it is a reasonable thing to say about, is that Fenris? No, you Rust Gray. About Reavers, but not Khorne in general. Let's see. Just one big germing it up across the battlefield. Yeah, I hope it's just like the GW modeling team just literally makes like the Ebola virus as a model. Or if they really want to, if they want to make my personal day, they would have a Mutabu virus. And if you get that reference, you're an awesome person. But yeah, just have a straight up monkey with like a big fungal thing coming out of its head, and it's just like, you know, the plague of Mutabu or something like that. You have Dennis Hoffman. We gotta shut this down. Let's see. Lord of Khorne's goal is looking for a good queen, so you can take your skull in glorious combat. Love it. Let's see. I'm gonna do the armor plates now. All right, so yeah, what I've been doing is painting the armor plates in Thunderhawk, something like that, blue, and giving them a good wash, and then building up the color back up from there. Stephen Chen, question: are you going to do Corn Week after Flesh Eater Courts? Oh wait, am I missing? Let's see. Are you going to do a Corn Week after Flesh Eater Courts if the Battle Tome has new stuff for the lore? Yeah. What I did for Flesh Eater Courts was I just finished them early this afternoon. Is I did 2 videos that kind of just caught the updates. I read the whole thing, and I'll read the whole thing for Corn too, and realize like, you know, this is 90% the same. What they really did lore-wise was retell the same stuff for if you're a new person just picking up the Battle Tome. It's all super important and relevant. And then added sections for like, here's what the Necroquake did to these guys. And like, it's good to have such a defining thing that affects all units, or all armies, I should say. And so that's what I did. I did a video about like how the Necroquake affected the Flesh Eater Courts, and because they added the Grand Courts as a mechanic, kind of like Storm Hosts, I then did a second video like, let's dive into the lore of each one of them. So yeah, overall I think it's going to be 2 good videos, and I'll do the exact same thing for Corn when that comes out, assuming, well, I know they're going to have more lore because the world turns around the Necroquake right now, lore-wise. Which is why I'm not super, like, I'm not in a rush. I'm not pushing them to move further into the lore. Like, let's stay here and let flesh this out for a bit. Yeah. So there'll be a Corn video at some point. I'm not sure how many. Depends on how much they change. But honestly, I can't imagine a whole lot's going to change. They might reel it in with some of the more ridiculous and outlandish things, like the Skull Reapers needing to get 8 worthy skulls a day, which is just like, where do you find the time for that? But yeah. Okay. Let's see. Trying to go super heavy cavalry in my Corn stuff. I want it to open like a floodgate. That's awesome. Sounds like the new stuff for Blood Crushers is right up your alley, dude. Oh, got this little thing here I missed. Yeah, the new the thing that preview said as far as Blood Crushers, like just delivering, can, if in large units, deliver a monstrous number of mortal wounds on the charge, and like that is exactly what they should have always been doing. Haven't looked at the actual War Scrolls yet. I know that my app got updated, so I can. Just haven't had the time. Let's see. Got some cool chat on the got some cool talking in the YouTube chat about different Khornate Warband backstories. The one unit I hope gets a buff. Like I said, I haven't looked at his War Scroll yet, but maybe a battalion would make him fit in better with stuff. It's the frickin' dude who hoists around the anvil all the time. I think that guy is just the coolest model ever. I don't know why. It's the hero model. I can't remember his name. Probably blood something. I don't know. But where he just like hucks an anvil. Just like, this is the coolest guy ever. Brings his work home in the best way possible. Let's see. Byron Davis just got into Warhammer Scene. Great channel to listen to while I paint and assemble my Pestilence Plague Horde. Nice. We were just talking about Pestilence Plague Horde. I'm probably going to have one here pretty soon. Hey, dig it. Let me ask you this, Byron. How many Plague Monks you going for? Because the people on my Discord channel just keep saying 120. I'm like, whoa. That sounds like work. I mean, honestly, like with this, I'm getting a trade in the mail here pretty soon, and when that's all said and done, I think I'll have 80. But even then, that's a lot of dudes. Let's see here. Alright, building up some nice color here on the armor plates. I think we're going to hop into metallics next. Uh, 120 plus, that's a ton of fun. It sounds like actual backbreaking, like you're going to spend so much time moving models. I get it. I know that it is probably a ton of fun, and there's just so many bodies. Like, you don't even care at a certain point. Like, whatever. Let's see. So I don't think my head's in the way, but apologize if it is. Gotta get right up in here and get some details. I tried watching a whole bunch of YouTubers who do like painting all day, and they're very quiet. I try with the exception of when I do like super fine details to talk as much as possible to make it interesting. But like, there's one I don't know. I'm not a Twitch like aficionado or whatever like that. I just tuned in this channel, and this guy was like super up in detail, like doing handwork on a Deathwatch model from 40K, and I was just like utter silence for like 35 minutes. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I'll see myself out. Let's see. Byron, I picked up Pestilence back in February. I like the whole trashy orc Mordor look and feel. Yeah, that's awesome. They're super legit. I think I was just saying earlier, I think that they really came out on top in the new Battle Tome by a good margin. By a healthy margin. Let's see. I think at 2,000 points, 160 monks is about right. Let me ask you this. How many... actually, since I have people who are talking about Clan Pestilence, and that's kind of what I'm thinking about doing at some point, how many plague furnaces do you all run? Do you use the battalion? And what do you think about the Vermin Lord Corruptor? Let me throw some questions out there for you. Y'all in the chat, you can keep talking about corn if you want. I'm just asking a few questions from my own personal knowledge. I'm very interested. Because you can, I mean, just taking more and more plague monks is cool. I just think at a certain point I'd want to diversify with some priests and, you know, big centerpiece model and that kind of stuff. I'll give them a second to answer. Not played Skaven Outside Path of Glory. That's cool. I mean, that doesn't invalidate your opinion. That's cool. Let's see. Just got to get my friend to paint her models, but she's so darn busy all the time. Yep. That's why you're just like gotta call her up and be like, "Listen, friend. Tonight we're doing Chinese or paint some models." This is happening. I did that with, it was actually back in Iowa, back when I was playing War Machine and Hordes. This guy just kept putting it off, and then, and at one point he said, like, you know, he wanted to go to an event, because I did tournaments for War Machine and Hordes, and he was like, "Can you keep me accountable to get my stuff painted?" And so I was like, "Here's the deal. I'm going to buy a box of Bud Light, and you and I are going to paint some models tonight." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he did, and he felt really good about it. I was like, "Shut up and listen to me." Let's see. Played monks in Furnace and Maggotkin before going on with Skaven. I understand. Okay, so yeah, you kind of like sidestepped into them. That's kind of what I'm doing too. Where like You know, Scryer really attracted me to the army, but the more I'm learning about it and like having difficulty with the Orbstone Spark stuff, I'm like, you know, for the longest time I did want to do a Clan Pestilence army. I wasn't at a place where I had a good reason to sidestep into them. But now that I do, I'm like, check these guys out. I think that's probably the coolest thing about factions like Slaves to Darkness and now Skaven is that like they just allow you to have really easy ways to paint completely different models. Like, you know, it's much easier if you're already playing Scryer to be like, I want to play some Pestilence, and you just grab some Clan Rats and you can do whatever you want. You can bring whatever you want in a Skaven Tide army, and it gives you that kind of like on ramp to playing something else. Corruptor is great. Sweet. Spell is amazing. Consider Portal with it. Like the Umbral Spell Portal. Okay. Byron says Censor Bearers are great too. A must. I never heard that. Plague Censor Bearers, 10 to 20 make great shock army with Plague Priest. I have never heard anyone speak highly of that unit, but I'm glad that you are. It's one. Someone asked me a question about that on I think it was Instagram about doing Plague Censor Bearers. I was like, I don't know, dude. Like, people crap on them all the time, but I also, in the same vein, like, I tell people not to just listen to YouTube personalities about what's good and what's not, because most of the time I disagree. So I don't know. But it's cool that you're having success with them. The biggest argument I see against them is just why not just take more Plague Monks? And the problem is that with how awesome Plague Monks are, that's a pretty solid argument for most things Pestilence. Why not just take more Plague Monks? But I understand that they have a role. That's why they're there. Let's see. Oh, I lost track here. Also a good candidate for the Vermilor Corruptor is a good candidate for an artifact weapon. Solid choice. Kenzie says, I want to find a way to write up all this lore I've got cooked up, but in a way that isn't just bland exposition. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I should ask my wife to help me out. I should probably come up with some resource for like creating lore and stuff like that, just because she's a writer and she's really great about fleshing out more of the flavorful side of things as far as like dialogue and maps and stuff like that, rather than just like me. I would be the heavy exposition guy, but that's kind of what, you know, DMs and D&D are, that they're exposition dudes, also storytellers. So it's a tough line to walk. Totally get it. Now comes the super delicate part of trying to paint around the ugly little rat fetus on his back, but not actually him. And if you just tuned in and that was the only sentence you heard, and you don't know what you're watching because you're on Twitch, welcome. Sometimes I do think about that. I know my family, my father, who I don't speak to a ton, told me that he actually found my channel and watches it every once in a while, and I just think, like, this must make absolutely no sense to you. That's funny. Okay. Steven, I saw some of the Warhammer Weekly painting. Oh, sorry. Videos. He uses so many different paint stuff that I can't afford. Yeah, but he's been doing it for forever. You know, Vince has been very consistently putting out awesome content and that kind of stuff, tutorials for forever. And at a certain point, you gotta start experimenting with different stuff. And that's my biggest thing, is like, I don't want to say I've plateaued as a painter. I mean, I'm really good. I'm very efficient. But I also, like, the painting aspect of the hobby is not really my goal. You know, it's not what I strive to get better at. It's more stress relief. So it doesn't have to be great. It just has to be relaxing. Let's see. Got the pipe works done. Let's see. How I did this weekend. I finished assembling and primed a Daughters of Cain army and my Nightheart army. Ooh, there's a lot of painting. A lot of painting there. Kid says more like I want to explore their stories in the context of an actual narrative. I'm not sure. Let me ask my wife. Write more of a campaign with a friend, like D&D, one-off. Yeah, that's a good idea. Regarding Pestilence battalions, the Congregation of Filth seems well liked. The others not so much. Yeah, it's kind of been my understanding as well. But I think honestly, the battalions being largely meh in the Skaven battle tome is a purposeful balancing effort. Because having an army that is, I think, very, very good, if it was too easy to make them a one-drop, like if there was like battalions that were like, oh, this is clearly what you should do and it's amazing, I think that would be a shame, and I think that it would kind of dominate a lot of the scene. So I think they had to be very, very careful about how they did battalions, for sure. I think the only real clan battalions that I've heard good things about, or thought good things about, because it's my opinion too, is yeah, the Congregation of Filth is a good one. But then I personally really, really like the Clan Molder one. And that's partially because Clan Molder can do a one-drop army with that. That is a mix of Horde bodies, which the Scryer ones don't really allow you to do. I mean, you can do Acolytes, but it's hard. Because you have the giant rats, as well as the Rat Ogres and Hell Pit Abominations. Like, some of the cooler units in our book are in Molder. Their drawback being, and the reason I think it's okay to have a one-drop Molder army is because their artifacts stink. So I think Molder army with the battalion, and then if you have a Greyseer as your general, makes it a 2-drop. I think that's still a super solid choice, and same goes for probably the Congregation of Filth, stuff like that. So yeah, I think there's a few ways to do it, but I think, like I said, I think the battalions being not so liked, I think that was actually super intentional. Just as a design thing to keep them from being a little too good. Let's see. Ken says, I'm thinking of exploring points of their lore through important characters. If I had to start, I'd do the Mother of Corn. I would just honestly say, you know how like a lot of battle tomes have like an organizational tree, like here's your My Little Corn, below him is this dude, below him is this, you know, battalion or like that. I would say just do that, make lore for each one of them, and then you can kind of build it together, and like then it's just a matter of tying those things together. But if you have lore for each individual unit and dude in your army, that's an easy way to organize it. Let's see. Let's see. Specia. Okay. Kind of losing track of the corn lore discussion there. That's all right. You all can talk amongst yourselves. Good morning from Germany. Hello, hello. Sadly, I'm probably going to hop off here in just a smidge once it gets the metal done on this guy. Been on for almost 2 hours. A little bit longer than I wanted to be on. That's okay. I'll get this guy done with the metals. These Stormfiends are cruising along. Let's see. Got that. Dan Brewer won the South Australia GT this weekend with Scryer Heavy and Mixed Skaven. Yeah, I saw that. He was on the Doom and Darkness recap thing, very vocal about some of the things he liked and didn't like, and that's okay. Let's see. I'm sure that he is a top-notch player. There's some real competition down there. Their discussion about the Battle Tome, though, did honestly inspire me to grab a Vermin Lord kit in that trade with a patron, just because, yeah, man. You can have like 6 saves. Ridiculous. When you start stacking all the different ways you can pass off wounds and deflect them, oh, it's ridiculous. I love it. Let's see. Greetings from Uruguay. How are you tonight, Doug? I am good. I'm good. Sadly, we are just about to finish up, but once the thing finishes compressing on the YouTubes, you can watch it, or of course, right away over on Twitch. I always feel bad when I get near a stream and folks are just tuning in. Let's see. Man, a lot of medals on these dudes. A lot of everything on them, actually. Like, there's just a lot of detail. Someone warned me about that. I can't remember. I think it was someone in a live chat, actually, was talking, and as I was painting a bunch of clan rats, they're like, be careful with your Stormfiends. There's just so much to do. But I think I'm going to have all of the wires coming from the Bjorn be green, like the glowing green. And try to keep it pretty simple with the metallics there. But his skin is turning out. It turned out... Aha, I didn't land in the paint. Okay. He sticks to the landing. I'm a professional YouTuber and painter, as you can see. But, yeah, I think the skin turned out pretty stinking well. Gotten most of it kind of where I want it. Stormfiends were tough. What's the other way to show you my paint scheme? Yeah, I basically primed them blue. Like the color you see their base is that the Fang paint from GW, and have been building up from there. Mainly because it takes skin tones really well. Oddly enough, even though it's blue, it becomes skin flesh tones really, really well. And then obviously I have the bluer armor, and it just kind of builds up from there. So I've been enjoying it quite a bit. They're fun. Going to join now. Too many people I know. Which one do I join? Okay. Talking about something else. Okay. Yeah, so I think this guy is turning out pretty stinking well. So the idea will be I'm going to do all the pop and highlights on the red and build up the blues a little bit more. Add some brass. I like brass as a cool color for Stormfiends. And then wash and do some glazes with... I'm so glad you didn't have the hoses attached to him when you just dropped him. I think he's fully assembled. The hoses are all on there. But, yeah. Should be pretty stinking cool. I think they're going to be a cool unit when they're all done. I mean, honestly, the games, I think I've played 4 games with them now, and never once have they been deleted from the table, which is always kind of my biggest fear when you have a really big unit that you're super proud of. I'm sure now that they're painted, they're going to be deleted instantly without even a thought. But, you know, up until that point, they've been really, really good to me. and I've enjoyed them quite a bit. Let's see. For those of you who don't know, we do have a Discord where I do chat pretty frequently. It should be in the description of this video. It is in the description of my latest videos because I updated the auto description thing. Maybe not this one, but yeah, if you go to the Rerolling Ones videos, they're all there as well. So go ahead and check those out. You can join the conversation over there, and I will talk to you all real soon when I do my next live stream. Tomorrow morning, there'll be Flesh Eater Court. Sorry, Flesh Eater hiccup, killing me. Flesh Eater Court's lore update, as well as later in the week another one, and then Friday I'll probably be back for another paint and hangout, and I might actually do 2 of them. I'd like to do one in the morning for European viewers, and I like to do one in the evening for us US folks who are just chilling out. So thank you all so much. Awesome chat today, and I'll talk to you soon.